Okay, so our big technical challenge is getting used to the camera. Figuring out, well, one, what do I do with it? You know, there you go. It's a perfect question. Um, and then, how does the aperture work? How does the shutter speed work? How does the light meter work? All that kind of stuff. So this PowerPoint or PDF is really about just kind of going through those things and kind of trying to break it down. All right. Um, so in the beginning, I just have some information, some photographs that like really inspired me to study photography. Seriously, my mother was a photographer. My dad kind of dabbled in it. I went to school initially to be a painter, somebody who like really loves to draw. I do enjoy painting, so, sort of, I guess. I don't know. But so that my instincts were kind of more towards the the plastic arts, I guess is what you would call it, like painting, drawing, sculpture. And then I kind of moved into photography because I found like I don't know why I was just drawn to it. Okay, so these are some of the people that got me excited when I first like really got into photography. People like Robert Frank, who we're kind of circling in on this week. People like William Eggleston. Um, Again, like his use of color is incredible. People like Emmett Gowan, who just kind of like I don't, I think they like this. They say about him like I don't think he took a photograph uh, outside his, more than 100 meters away from his house. He was just always kind of lumbering around. Photographed his kids, his wife. Or, you could do something like this, I guess. You could take a picture of your kid. So, getting started with your camera, okay? Familiarize yourself with your camera. The camera is only a tool. Do not be afraid to use it. You will only get better with practice. Okay? The beauty of it, from when I started learning, was that, I put a roll of 24 or 36 exposure film in my lens, and I didn't know I was doing anything wrong till you get that film out. You you take it to the darkroom, you develop it. Hopefully, you develop that right, and then like you're like, well, okay, it looks like I did everything wrong. So the great thing with the digital camera is you have almost an unlimited amount of exposures you can take. Second, you can look on the back of that camera and you'll know right away if you're doing it wrong. Okay, it's gonna be blank. It's gonna, or too light, too dark, and you can kind of correct there. So that is incredible to me. Okay, but we want to read our manual. It is important to understand your camera's functions. Okay, this class isn't about me explaining in thorough detail how your Canon Rebel works or whatever. Okay, I can't know every like little button on there. Okay, so you gotta put in that work. Okay, become comfortable with your camera, carry it around. Don't be shy to take a picture. If you see something you like, take it. The camera should feel like an extension of you. Okay, just as like a pencil or paintbrush, that should be, an extension of you. Um, I put that camera on your shoulder. Make sure you got the strap on right. Leave the camera lens, um, the lens cap at home, and just walk around. Leave your bag at home. You don't need all that stuff. Just put it on your shoulder and walk around. Experiment. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And it's an important part of learning. Okay. Most importantly, have fun. So here's a little detail, like just kind of what's going on in the camera. Okay. So we have our lens here. We have the lens element. Okay, that's what's kind of focusing the light, brings it in through. Here's our aperture. Okay, the shutter's back here. Okay, so the shutter is part of the camera body. Okay, and what that does is that's covering the sensor or the film in the old days. Okay, so and that shutter is opening and closing at whatever speed you tell it to. Okay, so the shutter lets in light and does the aperture. That lets in light too. So like, whoa, they both let in light. All right, what's the difference? So we'll cover that in a second. Okay, the viewfinder's up here. Okay, that's basically what's going on. It's a device that lets in light. Okay, and it's a framing device. All right, a little bit, this is in general what your camera, is going to be like. It's going to have a data panel up here. So this displays the ISO, the shutter speed, aperture, number of exposures. There might be some other information. This displays your images. It might show you, what's going on with your light meter. That kind of depends. All right. Here's the mode dial up here. Okay, so this week we're going to have that set to M. And you're going to have a memory card kind of shoved in here, over here, under here. All right. So with the digital camera, check the batteries. Make sure the batteries are fresh. Okay. Insert your memory card. All right. And then go through your menu options. Okay, so this week we should be set to ISO of 200. All right, our white balance is set to daylight, and our file size should be set to RAW. Okay, and I'm going to write that up again in the project. Okay, so choose a memory card. And whatever one fits your camera. You can get huge honking ones now. ISO, okay, that describes the sensor or the film's sensitivity to light. The higher the number, the more sensitive or fast it is. The less light is needed to take a picture. So when your ISO is set up to 3200 or whatever, you can go crazy high now. All right, that's going to be very sensitive to light, but it's also going to be a very grainy image. Okay, so we want to choose a lower ISO for now because we're mostly going to be outside. Okay, here's like the little sun with the ISO. So like here they're showing us film things, but it really mimics the whole way the whole system is set up, mimics old photography. Okay, so thankfully they kept everything the same. Okay, so here they're saying like if you go inside or you're in low light conditions, you want to use something 400 or higher. Okay, if you're outside, if it's a bright sunny day, you're walking around, set that ISO to 100, 200. That's good. You can go really low. I think mine goes to 50. But again, that's the beauty of the digital camera, because like again, back in the day, if I put in a roll of film that was say 3200, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go shoot at night tonight, and I'm walking around, I don't finish that roll, and like I have to go, it was such a pain in the butt. Okay, it's really a beautiful thing. Just some tips about like shooting. Hold the camera steady. Okay, make sure your hands are steady. Don't drink too much coffee. All right. When you're about to take a picture, kind of like take in a breath. Let it kind of like relax for a second. Then hit the shutter. Okay? You want to keep that steady. Vertical photographs, you can turn it that way too. Tripod for 35, unless you're like shooting artwork or something, don't bother with it. Okay? Or at nighttime, it doesn't matter. To make an exposure, check the focus, composition. When you're ready, stabilize yourself and your camera and gently press the shutter release all the way down. Okay? Here's some notes about what happens when you won't take a picture. When your card is full, transfer those. Okay, we're going to go over to Lightroom this week too. So what do you have control of? You have control of aperture, shutter speed, film speed, and white balance. Okay, working in manual mode, that's what you have. Okay, white balance is like the new one for digital because, you know, it's a digital camera and it has these other functions. You didn't have to worry about white balance back in the day. Okay, I'm going to break here. I'm going to break this up into a couple different little videos. Okay, so we're going to start off here when we come back.